Wait for a few seconds for some of our participants to join. That I was on mute. So very good evening to all present here. Our team OIG is here with yet another interesting webinar series on case studies in naturopathic clinical practice. And our speaker for today is Dr. Deekshita. She has completed her BNYS from S. Vyasa University, and she's got 3 medals from S. Vyasa University on her graduation day, which tells us how good she is in she is an all-rounder performer, and she is currently pursuing DHNE, Diploma in Nutrition and Health Education, and MSc in Counseling Psychology. I heartily welcome you, ma'am, on behalf of our participants and the team OIG. Over to you, ma'am.
Yes, good evening. A very warm welcome to everybody who are joining us today. I'm Dr. Deekshita. Most of you would have known me if you are in the BNYS faculty, but yes, I completed my BNYS from S. Vyasa Yoga University. So today we'll be talking about clinical naturopathy and how to take a case. So we have a series for 3 days, 30 minutes on each day, starting today. So today we'll be talking about modern aspects on how to take a case and how to deal with cases. So what we'll be seeing today is how to take a case in the modern diagnosis. So basically, this is a teaching session for all the students who are currently in their internship or who are posted in various hospitals who wants to know how to take a case and how to deal with patients. So can everybody hear me? Is the audio clear? If yes, somebody.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So basically, when we start taking cases or when we start taking cases for the first time, there will be a lot of nervousness among the students and how the classes start or how to talk to a patient. So what first thing you have to see is, remember, they are your patients and you are already a doctor. So have the confidence in you, and you should always be ready to ask many number of questions. And as you ask questions, that is when people will start opening up to you. So there are a few tricks which you can always use while talking to a patient. The first one will be when you ask their name, if you've already known them for a long time. So if you have some problem asking their names, instead of asking what's your name, you can just say, please state your full name. So that is an easier way to bring out people's full name. And then start adding all their personal details. The reason why we take age in all the case sheets is you need to know the group of diseases which will come under their spectrum. For example, an infant cannot get a PCOD or something like that, and a younger person who has will not be able to get diabetes mellitus type 2. So you need to nail the age and everything, and the gender also bases on what diseases the person will be getting, because a male obviously cannot get PCOD and the female cannot be getting some male related disorders. So that and all will be there. And when we go, the major it starts from chief complaints. So every time you ask patients for a complaint, do not frame your question as why are you here or something. Make the question as, ma'am, what are your complaints? What are the problems you have right now? And why, what are the, like you can ask them to state it to you, and keep an open mind. Always remember, you have to multitask when a patient is talking to you. You should listen to understand the patient and not just to reply what the patient is asking you. So when you start for chief complaints, remember when they say anything about pain, you need to start asking the description about the pain. What type of pain it is, how long has the pain been going on for the person, how the duration of the pain, and which side the pain is there. Everything about the pain you need to take, and what are the aggravating factors of the complaint, meaning like, is the pain higher in the morning or higher in the evening, or is the pain usually there when the person is stressed or something like that. At the same way, all the relieving factors also you have to take it. And when you talk about relieving factors, ask about every home remedy which they use at their home. Only then you can assume what kind of treatments the patient is ready to take. For example, a patient complaining of headache, if he already takes some massage at home, you can assume that this person will be ready to take naturopathy cases or naturopathy treatments. But if the patient already states, I take a tablet every time I get a headache, then there is a little of counseling which you have to give to the patient. Those kinds of things. So there should be a lot number of questions which you ask, and each time you ask a question, try to eliminate what kind of diseases the patient may or may not have. You need to decide from that. So you should start canceling, ticking off whatever diseases you can cancel right then. For example, if a patient says like there is only one-sided headache or something, you can obviously relieve tension headaches or something like that. So you need to multitask. Your brain should be thinking of lots of stuff when they are complaining or stating whatever complaints they are having to you. And once you start taking a case history, that is history of presenting complaints, you need to start from when the pain actually started, the first day. Even if it is 10 years ago, you need to ask the patient clearly when did it start, and each and every treatment which they underwent. Because when a patient comes to naturopathy, it is usually after they undergo all systems of medicine, and it is fortunate or unfortunate, they have undergone every style of treatment, and as a final resolution they come to you. So what you need to do is, you need to take a list of every treatments they have taken, and which had shown improvement or which had not shown improvement, which had aggravated that particular disease which that person is having. You need to take everything and make it as a flow chart in your case sheet if it is possible. That way it will be easier for you to remember. For example, 2000, okay, the pain started in 2000, maybe it is on right side alone. You make it as right-sided pain. And then by 2003, the pain has gradually spread to the left side also, something like that. So every time you make a flow chart, it will be easier for you to remember who the patient is and what his case is the next time you open their case sheet. So after the history of presenting illnesses, what we'll be taking care of is all the past history, or what are the diseases the person already has. So when you ask for the past history, you ask for any types of hospitalizations if they had, or any cycles of medications which they are already taking, and all the diseases which they are already having. So one way you can ask is, you can already question them like, were you hospitalized for any reason, were you undergoing a surgery or anything. So from here, what I usually do is, I go for, if it is a female patient, from this point in past history, I take them to obstetrics and gynecological history. Because since it is a very awkward question to ask females about when their menstrual cycles are, what you can do is, when you're talking about past history, if they've already had a children or something, you can ask, when was the date of delivery and how was the delivery type? Is it normal or abnormal? You can, from there, you can start expanding your questions. And once they've given the year of delivery or how their child is, then you can easily start asking, so now that it is over, after all the delivery, is your periods normal or abnormal? And how many days is the cycle? And how is the bleeding style? So once you ask like this, there is no awkwardness between the doctor and the patient to answer the question, and what kind of questions you're asking, they won't feel shy to answer you. So remember, to ask obstetrics and gynecological history from a woman or a lady, you can always connect it from the past history where they are starting. That way you can always ask the patient very easily, be it male or a female doctor. It will be easier for you to convey your answer to the patient. Next one will be, after that you need to take their medical histories. Medical histories does not only involve what medications they are taking currently, but also whichever medications they were on prior. For example, a patient would have had childhood epilepsy whom will not have been taking medications now, but you need to know if they are on Levipil even before they come to you or something like that. Excuse me just for a moment, please excuse me.
Yes, ma'am, please get.
I'm so sorry for the disturbance. Yes, and all the medications which they have taken, you need to know from the day one, whatever medications are taken. And even if they do not, if they're not on allopathic medications and if they are on Ayurvedic medications, please take a list. You may not know what medications they are having. So you can always refer back on what the side effects are or what the benefits of those particular medications are. You can always do that. And now coming to, we do something called general physical examination, which will always include something called PICKLE. We always take a list of whatever the signs the person is showing. So we start with pallor. So the locations where you look for pallor is always start from the eyes. You always look under the in the sclera and the tongue. Excuse me. Yeah, sclera, the tongue, and their palms. You always check for everything. What usually what I do is when I check for the pallor, I also check for the icterus in the same, because you will be looking down for the pallor and you can always pull their eyes up to look for icterus if they have. And once you finish that, you can always come next for the neck region to palpate for any lymphadenopathies if this patient has. Start palpating, and always remember a patient will be more open to you when you do not have any restrictions or inhibitions towards the patient. If you are not even ready to touch the patient, even to do a general physical examination, the patient also will not be ready to explain it to you what are problems he has or she has. So every time, do not hesitate to ask a question or do not hesitate to do any examinations, however long it takes, because even every time, the first case whichever you take or the first day when you consult a patient, it is usually 45 minutes or more. Doesn't matter if people are waiting. Taking one case properly and completing it is better than taking 3 or 4 incomplete cases. So you need to take the entire examination. Never have any inhibitions. See, even if you do not know, even if it is your first day, practice it with your friends and then go do it on them. Even if you do it wrong, they are not going to know that you have done it wrong because they are not a doctor themselves. But they will know that you have a knowledge and you're doing tests on them, which will increase their confidence level in you. Okay, so never have any inhibitions while taking tests or while doing an examination on a patient. Okay, for general physical examination. Next way, what I do is we go for systemic examinations. During systemic examinations, it's a combination of questioning and examining. So when you start asking for, when you start checking like heartbeats and everything, ausculting a patient, what you can obviously do is question him about previous histories. Did he have any heart attacks or heart problems previously? At the same time, you can also ask if his father or his grandfather had any related problems, or if anybody in his family has. During systemic examination, don't make it a very small examination time. Make it a very large one, because at that time you can always question a lot and you can come to your conclusion of what kind of diagnosis you're going to come to. So start from the CVS. Obviously, we always start from the cardiovascular system. So once you start ausculting and palpation and everything, you can ask those questions also. Next, when we come for respiratory system, always start from palpating the patient. You'll be checking everything symmetrical inspection and ask questions about them. And this is the time when you start asking for allergy histories also. When you're asking for respiratory system, you can start the questions like, are you allergic to any particular smells? Do they trigger you sneezing? And when they start yes or no, then you can obviously go for next. Any particular food, are you allergic to any particular food? You can ask it that way. So that way your entire thing is not connected. So it's connected and rhythmic. You need not go like systemic, first CVS only and first RS only, nothing like that. You can keep it connected and keep it going from one by one. You can always connect it. And if they say positive for allergy, what medications they are taking in that time, if it has been missed out. Usually patients tend to forget medications which they take only during SOS is like only when there is an event or only when there is an episode occurring, they tend to take that medications. So those kind of medications patients forget to mention to you. So when obviously when you ask for allergic histories or any episodes of allergies, they will be answering you, and that time you can ask what medications they take also. So that way, that allergic medication which they take, and based on the dosage which they take, you can obviously conclude how serious is their problem and how easy the problem is for you to solve the case. And after, like once you connect to the allergic history, you can connect it to food. From there you can come for gastrointestinal system. So there you start asking questions like, how is your digestion going on? Is there any problem with digestion? Is the stools loose or hard? This way, when you ask the question, you will also be completing your other history where you ask how is your diet, how is your bowels and bladder movements. This way you can complete it here only. You need not ask it separately, like how is your urine, how is your motion. No, don't ask questions like that. When you ask how is your digestion only, ask them like how is your fecal movement, is it regular, is it in the morning or is it in the evening, and how many times they pass. So when you know all this, it is easier for you to decide if the patient has a proper lifestyle or not. Once you finish this, next is a major system called central nervous system. You always go for CNS. We BNY students have the habit of ignoring the CNS completely most of the time, just saying the patient is conscious or alert. But this one major system always has a lot of loopholes where we tend to miss out minor or major symptoms which the patient has. Because as we all know, disease is like an iceberg. You never know what is inside. So when you start questioning with the CNS, add a little of mental examination. Just tell them, I'll be giving you a few words now. Later, I will ask you to retell it to me. A simple memory task can reveal if the patient already has dementia or started with stages of dementia. Because a lot of patients above the age of 40 only come for naturopathy treatments with lifestyle disorders. So you will also know if the brain has started affecting in that particular patient, or if they're mentally stressed also included in the disease which they're obviously having right now. So once you have taken the CNS examination, start from head to toe or from toe to head. The reflexes, check all the reflexes. See, it may not be related to the complaints they have, but there is nothing wrong in you eliminating something. Later, regretting not eliminating CNS or not eliminating the neurological symptoms is worse. So always be precautious. There is nothing wrong in taking a precaution and taking the tests even further. The patient will not have any any hesitancy to show you any reflexes or anything. You can always take a knee hammer and examine the reflexes, and also check for cranial nerve examination. That is obviously better. So when you check all these reflexes and nerve tones, you will know also, you can also connect it to which part of the body is usually weaker. For example, if a patient has diabetes and also has some shoulder pain, and if you can check the reflexes here, you can associate if the patient is prone to get frozen shoulder or not, or if the patient is prone to get diabetic neuropathy or not. Because diabetic neuropathy is one major issue where everybody are losing their senses either from their fingers in their hands or from their foot. So to relate it to the disease which you have, you need to do this examination very clearly. Never underestimate your CNS examinations, because in the end of the day, they are going to give you a lot of clues of what the patient is going through, which will never be relieved. Even a small sign, it could be them just doing the shoulder. They will just say it is a habit which I have from the young age, but it might be due to some irritation of any nerves running over here. So you always need to check. You need to observe them very clearly, and the CNS examination starts the minute the patient starts walking towards you, because you'll be looking at their gait, how they walk, and what kind of gait are they walking with. And once you check the gait, always see which side they are balancing to. Meaning, if they're comfortably balancing on their right side, they have some pain on their left side. And also check the line which they walk. If they're walking straight, then it is well and good. If they're walking in a crooked line, check for their balance and posture. It may be related to their ears. So all these should be running through your head, because the patient will be talking a lots of stuff. Sometimes they may include their family issues in the conversation, like my son doesn't take care of me and all those things. But you need to always multitask. Think lots of things should be going in your head. Is it this disease? No. Is it this disease? No. The multitasking should always be going on inside your head by observation. And anytime you have any doubt with the patient, do not hesitate to ask them twice. If you cannot hear them properly, if you have a language barrier, never hesitate, because if only when you understand their part of the side clearly, it is easier for you to diagnose the case. So after CNS examination, we'll be coming for the renal system. So renal system is usually for the frequency of urination and what kind of, is there any burning sensation or anything related to urination and everything. Also check for edema. If there is edema in the patient in their food, always check for their renal system. If the patient has CKD or something like that, you should always check for it. Once it is all done, then you can, after taking the entire systemic examination, you can either start, you can ask the personal history and vital data before systemic examination or after systemic examination. Because why I'm telling you this is, if you take a longer time taking their personal history and their vital data, you tend to miss out on systemic examinations. So what you can always do is combine the pulse rate and BP when you're doing a CVS examination. And the rest of the things you can, respiratory system, when you're doing the systemic examination only, you can count their respiratory cycles per minute. So this will obviously help you conserve time. At the same time, you would have completed both the tasks in the same time. And also, when you take personal history of sleep, do not just ask the patient, how is your sleep? So there is a long thing when it comes to sleep. If you just ask, how is your sleep? They're going to say, it is not good. Don't stop there. You need to start questioning, like, why is it not good? Is it because after you lie down, you take a longer duration to sleep, or do you wake up in between? If they say, I take a longer duration to sleep, make it as late initiated sleep. If they say, I wake up in between, always ask, why do you wake up in between? Is it because of urination or any issues, or because of any nightmares or dreams which they get? If, for example, they say to nightmares or dreams, you need to start connecting it to psychological issues, which may be underlying, which will not be shown outside. Outside, it may look like physical symptoms, but there are lots of diseases which have psychological triggers. You need to know that very well. And after sleep, you need to, once you ask them, how was your sleep throughout the night? The next question you ask, when you wake up in the morning, do you wake up fresh or do you wake up tired? That will also help you the rate or the the quality of sleep which that patient had. And when you ask for food, again, do not ask, are you eating well? Do you feel hungry? No. Ask them the question like, do you eat only because you're hungry, or do you eat only because it is time for you to eat the food? Only then you will know. Because when we say appetite, appetite is basically a psychological need. Like you want to eat something. Not just hunger is physiological, it is coming from inside, but appetite is a psychological need. Only when you are feeling good or something like that, you have the appetite. At the same time, there is something called binging. We call it in psychology. It is called whenever a person is sad, they either tend to avoid food completely or they tend to overeat. So you need to analyze that also. To avoid, like to eliminate psychological factors, please ask the questions properly. How is your food? At the same time, ask them, remember, always ask, do you eat only because it is time to eat, or do you eat only because you're hungry? All those should always be asked. At the same thing goes for thirst also. Do you drink only because it is time to drink water, or do you drink only after exercising, or whenever you're thirsty, do you drink comfortably? All those things you need to ask. So this will be the modern diagnosis spectrum of what we usually take. Along with that, if there is any other things, you can obviously add. For example, if a patient has any joint stiffness or joint pains, you will obviously be adding musculoskeletal system examinations for that particular joint. If it is a back pain or something like that, you do back examination and all the tests which we relate for back. And if it is knee pain or something, we always check for inflammation in the knee, if there is stiffness or if there is crepitations, or how much is the pain. And every time when they say the pain, the main thing you need to also note down is the degree of pain. We tend to say if it is between 1 to 10, but what I would suggest every time in pain is take it from 0 to 4. 0 being no pain at all, One is slight pain but does not disturb your regular cycle. Two will be it is painful but you're still able to do your regular activities but it slightly disturbs. Three will be like you're not able to do your regular activities and it is painful, you're taking rest. Four is unbearable pain for which like they cannot even eat or go to the bathroom. That grading is obviously easier than grading the pain from 0 to 10, because from 0 to 10 it is individualistic approach. From a patient to a doctor, it is obviously individualistic approach. One patient may say 7 and still be laughing, and one patient may say 5 and still be crying. So it is better to take the pain scale from 0 to 4. Always remember that. That will be easier for you. Even when you write in the case, you will know at what degree of pain that patient is currently in. So once you have taken all those things, and all at last, if you have any questions or if that person has any questions, do not hesitate to answer. If you do not know the answer, you can just change the topic very smoothly, because sometimes the patient will obviously ask you questions which cannot be answered. See, you are a doctor who will be treating 100 types of diseases, but there are patients who come to you who have learned about diabetes for like 10 years in their life. Since they are a diabetic patient, they would have only learned about diabetes and they'll be experts more than you. So sometimes you need to understand where they are coming from and where you are coming from. Do not have any ego clash between the patient and a doctor. If they say they know more than you, just nod, accept, and then you can state your point of view. There is nothing wrong in stating that they are higher or lower. Do not have that power play in between a patient and doctor. See, you should be open to their views and they'll also be open to your views. There are lots of issues like a patient will not be ready to tell to you because we are just younger doctors who are on this on the thing for the first time. So you can always say very frankly, you can say, I'm just an intern, but I want to check everything, and be very frank with them. There are patients who will be like slightly offended because you're an intern, but your ability stands there when you start asking more questions. The more question you ask, that is when they will know this person also has a lot more knowledge. Just asking how long is the pain is different from asking from when did the pain start, when did your headache occur, where is your headache. When you start questioning each symptom, then the patient will feel they are taken care of, so they will start talking to you more. So this will be your modern aspects. And once you have completed your examinations, you will be coming for your differential diagnosis. So here, from here, how the modern cycle or allopathic view goes is, once they come to their differential diagnosis, they usually go for what is this tests. It is usually either an X-ray or blood reports, CT scans, MRIs. That way they conclude their test. But as naturopaths, our tests are usually different and we write the diseases in different terms than when compared to the allopathics. So how to write those, I'll be discussing those things with you tomorrow, like how, which kind of tests and how to write the diseases based on naturopathy. But right now, this is how we take it in modern diagnosis and how we do it. So any questions on how to ask the patient, you can start asking now. Yes, thank you.
Participants can raise your hand and then unmute yourself and post the question to our speaker.
Anything which you didn't understand, you want me to tell it again, also you can ask.
Okay, ma'am, I have a question. Like you were
Yes.
talking about sleep, asking about the sleep hygiene. What will be the right place to ask about sleep? Is it during the pre-phase before we start the physical examination, or will it be okay to do it somewhere near CNS examination where they would have got comfortable to share enough of truth with us? What do you think will be right?
Yeah, see, that is what I usually do is, for patients who are very open to me from the beginning. See, there are people who will be very open to you from the beginning. Those people you can start before the examination only. But for people who are slightly, you can yourself feel when the rapport is not good, they'll be hiding stuff or they'll hesitate to answer you. Those kind of patients during the examinations, like CNS examination, as I was telling you, at that time you can ask them like, how was your sleep and is it disturbing you or anything like that? Is it nightmares? And when you ask questions like, do you wake up because of nightmares? One important thing, explain them what a nightmare is also. And if they have a habit of walking in their sleep, explain it to them, and then ask the question. Sometimes you might ask a question and they may not understand the question even though they have that particular symptom. So explain it to them and then you can ask it to them.
Okay, ma'am. I get that. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Which system we need to check further? If renal profile shows normal, what was it? Okay, just a minute. I had a question. Normal for pitting edema case. Yes, if renal profile shows that the pitting edema case is normal, always you can go for the blood profile of sodium and potassium, all those cycles. See, every time edema is due to any imbalance in the ICF and the ECF compartments. So if there is a case of pitting edema in that particular patient, check if it is an actual edema or if it is pus formed because of any injury or internal bleeding which is taking place. Once you have eliminated the internal bleeding causes and that is confirmed that it is edema and fluid accumulation, then you can always check for sodium levels in the blood and potassium levels and chloride levels in the blood. That will help you to decide if there is sodium imbalance which is causing the edema and not just the renal profile. Because liquid is not the only thing which balances the level of fluid in the body. There is also proteins and minerals which help to balance the fluid levels in the body. So that you can do it. Shravani, yes. That way you can do it. Check for sodium, potassium and chloride levels in the person.
Ma'am, another question from my side. Regarding the naturopathic ways of diagnosing, like IRE diagnosis, how do we do it? Like, which again, what will be the right time to do it? Because it again needs a comprehensive time to be allocated. So what?
Okay. So there are you can see there are lots of times you can start the iris diagnosis any other time, but for us to make it a comprehensive, to understand it to be perfection, finish your systemic examination, and once you finish your systemic examination you can start your iris examination. So iris examination, again, there are people who use an iridoscope, or students who just use lens and a torch to talk. So every time you do that, after systemic examination, do an iris examination, like let it be continuous, or you can always include it when you're doing a cranial nerve examination, because in cranial nerve examination we usually check for the eye movements up and down and everything. We also check the inspect the cornea during cranial nerve examination. At that particular time you can include iris diagnosis, and you can include pulse diagnosis when you are taking the CVS examination only. Those examinations are usually, if you are an expert in it, you can do it very soon. But since we are just in a studying situation, pulse diagnosis, I usually take it for like 2 minutes or 3 minutes to understand the complete person's pulse levels. So those kind of things, it will be more comfortable if you explain what diagnosis you're doing. Once you finish the modern diagnosis, explain it to them. See, this is called pulse diagnosis. In naturopathy, we do so and so. This is how we take the pulse, and then you can start your pulse. Same way, explain what is iris diagnosis to them once you finish systemic examination, and do it on them. So that way, those timings will be better to take naturopathic diagnostic methods.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
If you're not comfortable asking the questions out loud, you can send it through chat and I will reply for the questions also. If people are not comfortable asking questions through chat again.
I guess people have understood everything. Yes. Probably it'll take some time. Probably they'll post the questions tomorrow in our next session. So thank you so much, ma'am. It was really good, and looking forward to the next session tomorrow. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Participants are now free to leave the session. Thank you.